Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Tension escalates between Guyana and Venezuela. Government maintains position on harsher penalties for convicted criminals. And later in sports, Cavalier look to overturn deficit in Caribbean Cup final. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. The Guyana Defense Force has been put on high alert. This as tension heightened between the South American country and neighbors Venezuela over claims to the Essequibo region. Romarda Lyons reports.
This is the new map of Venezuela, published by the South American country's president, Nicolas Maduro. It includes the Essequibo region, which was the subject of a referendum on Sunday. Not long after Venezuelans approved to take over the oil-rich region, Mr. Maduro ordered the interest to immediately begin exploring and exploiting the oil, gas, and mines in the area. In an address to the nation Tuesday night, President of Guyana Irfan Ali told citizens that the actions of Venezuela is an imminent threat. He says Guyana will intensify precautionary measures to safeguard its territorial integrity.
I have tonight spoken to the Secretary General of the United Nations and several leaders, alerting them of these dangerous developments and the desperate actions of President Maduro that fly in the face of international law and constitute a grave threat to international peace and security. Also, Guyana will tomorrow bring this matter to the United Nations Security Council for appropriate action to be taken by that body. Further, we've engaged CARICOM, the OAS, the Commonwealth, and many of our bilateral partners, including the United States of America, Brazil, the United Kingdom, and France. The Guyana Defense Force is on full alert and has engaged its military counterparts, including the U.S. Southern Command.
President Ali adds that Venezuela's defiance of the rule of law will not deter Guyana's resolve.
By defying the court, Venezuela has rejected international law, the rule of law generally, fundamental justice and morality, and the preservation of international peace and security. They have literally declared themselves an outlaw nation. Nothing they do, however, will stop Guyana from proceeding with a case in the ICJ or stop the ICJ from ultimately issuing its final judgment on the merits of the case. We will not allow our territory to be violated, nor the development of our country to be stymied by this desperate threat.
The US has been keeping a close watch on the developments. At a press briefing on Monday, spokesperson for the US Department of State, Matthew Miller, called for a peaceful resolution of the controversy between the two states. Romarda Lyons, TVJ News.
Justice Minister Delroy Chuck is maintaining the government's position on implementing harsher penalties for persons who are convicted of serious offences. Mr. Chuck was responding to Chief Justice Brian Sykes, who expressed the view that tougher sentences by itself won't help. Mr. Sykes also pointed to the need for further improvements in the justice system. But speaking on Power 106 Morning Agenda Wednesday, the minister offered a different view.
I would be the first to admit that evidence and history has never demonstrated that harsh punishment necessarily deter crimes. But those offenders who engage in serious offences, when you put them away for a long time, they certainly will not be in the community to commit any further crimes. So to the extent that harsh punishment for really serious offenders specifically deter these offenders from committing other crimes in the community, it certainly has a very profound effect.
Meanwhile, Mr. Chuck says the Ministry of National Security has improved in its efforts to tackle crime in Jamaica. Mr. Chuck says an enormous amount of money is being provided to the ministry.
To provide more vehicles, more bikes, more forensic, more professionals, more training. And I think the police force has improved significantly over the last couple of years. The investigations have been very thorough, and we are now getting more conviction, especially in high-profile cases, and we expect that the improvement in the training and forensic provision within the police force will ensure that more of these criminals will enter into the prison system.
The authorities are reporting marked improvements in the behavior of gamblers and gaming entities. However, the attention is now turning to schools where the practice is not allowed, but is getting prevalent among students. Dwayne Anderson has the details.
We found that the compliance got higher. We began to integrate a lot more into the program, and I can honestly tell you that now we have a culture of responsible gambling within the gaming lounges.
Responsible gambling at gaming lounges, a mere dream years ago. But Richard Henry, the program manager of addiction counseling and support services at Rise Life Management, says it is now a reality. But while gaming lounges have managed to get their houses in order, many schools are experiencing disorder due to illegal gambling among some students. The chairman of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission says he has taken note of the concerns from education stakeholders.
I recall the president of the JTA speaking about the children and their engagement in gambling. What I do know is that we have raised a partnership with Rise Life Management. And over the years, I've found Mr. Richard Henry to be a very hard-working individual. We have always supported him at BGLC. Every year we increase the budget to ensure that he continues to do the work that is of such importance to the Commission. I recall some reports recently that you went to a number of schools island-wide. I mean, your emphasis has always been on the school children.
Mr. Metcalf also suggested that Rise Life Management communicates its progress or plans to the concerned education stakeholders. The BGLC chairman, in the meantime, says additional measures are being contemplated to help make the gaming industry more robust against adult delinquent gamblers.
Let us make a list and publish that list. When I was in banking, I know we had an organization that kept a list of all the bad debtors with bad credit, and any institution could, would call into that organization and get a credit report on individuals. So we should have something like that. We need to have a reservoir that we can call upon, that we can help these people by not allowing them to go elsewhere. We are actually helping them.
Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
It's time for a break. Stay with us, more stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Mayor of Portmore, Leon Thomas, says as early as February next year, the municipal corporation will be carrying out work to facilitate the reopening of the Portmore Mall taxi terminus. It follows a meeting with police officials and the Ministry of Transport. Carrie-Ann Simpson reports.
Stakeholders at a recent meeting involving taxi operators, the Portmore Municipal Corporation and the Transport Authority are all optimistic. The police describe it as meaningful.
It's a resensitization to transport operators for them to use the bus park as a terminal point for all the routes that operate in the Portmore municipality. That's Route 17, Route 20, Westchester, Gregor Park, and Waterford.
DSP Campbell says the initiative is due to the public order issues in the municipality. The facility, which has been in operation for some time, is not being utilized by the transport operators.
Traffic congestion that happens there as a result of the taxis parking in the road, right? So we need to fix that from now, hence this engagement to get them to utilize the park.
The taxi operators say they are willing to cooperate once their concerns are addressed.
As you can see, the road needs fixing. We need a security post around here, and we need lighting. So if all that is done, we don't have a problem coming around here.
We'd love if you can make the bus them. All of the bus them will come from Halfway and Town and Spanish Town, reroute them, make them come around behind the map masters around here, so let off the people. Man, I promise you, say, all of your problem what you have in a Portmore I go solve.
I'm just appealing to the taxi drivers to just bear a little. We are going to work closely with the Portmore Mall Authority to get the road paved. We already done some assessment on it and estimate is prepared. And come January, February, we'll be doing some work on it.
Carrie Ann Simpson, TVJ News.
Residents of Wellington Street in St. Catherine are up in arms with their political representatives over the state of the road in their community. But there's a promise that the issue is being addressed. O'Shane Masters reports.
Since the start of the week, there have been 2 protests in St. Catherine over the deplorable state of the roads in some communities. On Tuesday, residents of Wellington Street off St. John's Road padlocked the train gate to bring attention to their plight. But not long after, it was pulled after the police intervened. The furious residents say calls for improvements in their community have gone unanswered.
We're still in a bad condition. So we'd like something to do towards it because as we come, you believe your car creep up and you having passenger and that's not good enough. Yeah, the road fix. So the road won't fix. So we are begging now. I beg the authority if you do something for it.
I just good road we are asked for and I'm nothing bad. This is not about politics. This is not about war. This is just about we just want the road to fix.
Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Central, Olivia Grange, is calling for patience. She says the tender process was done and the contractors identified to have the road fixed.
I must indicate to you that the tendering process seemed to take quite a while through NWA, and that is why some of the roads have not been fixed yet. I also want to indicate that the parish council, through the mayor, I'm expecting the mayor to do much more in Spanish Town because we do not have a sitting councillor. I've been talking to the mayor about the condition of Spanish Town. From time to time, he has responded, but I need greater response from him. I need a more fulsome discussion with the mayor to ensure that the Spanish Town division is in better condition.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
There continues to be concern in some quarters over the reluctance of banks to offer technology loans. Executive Chairman of NCB, Michael Lee Chin, says his institution remains agnostic on which sector it lends to.
What we do, we look at the credit and make sure that we are lending to prudently, right? So it's not that we are deleting any one particular sector. We look at individual credits.
In the meantime, Mr. Chin says NCB will still be going ahead with plans for an additional public offer APO.
Since coming in, we made sure that we have put our house in order, that we can do the APO at our choosing. We don't do an APO. We're not forced into doing anything. So the business all throughout this period has been a financial fortress, actually. Remember, the APO is an issuance of shares. And we're not going to do anything to cause dilution. Remember the 3 Ds? It has to be accretive.
He was speaking on Real Business on Power 106 earlier today. Further afield, TUI, one of the world's largest travel firms, says it is considering quitting the London Stock Exchange in favor of listing in Frankfurt. The move would deal another blow to London's attractiveness as a base for big firms, with several opting to list on exchanges overseas in recent years. TUI said it was considering putting the plan to a shareholder vote next year. And that's it for the Business Minute.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report. In this evening's Health Report, we'll look at the human immunodeficiency virus.
For a long time in private care, you had to pay exorbitant fees at private labs to get your basic blood test done for the HIV-specific ones. So now, a lot of that has changed. The prices there's been a lot of lobbying between Ministry of Health and Wellness and the private laboratories. The fees have come down.
That's the Health Report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Use latex condoms during sexual intercourse. Never share needles to take drugs. Get tested and treated for other STIs. And if you have been exposed to HIV, contact your healthcare provider as soon as possible. Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, a former confidential informant for the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration pleaded guilty Tuesday to conspiring to the 2021 assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse. Joseph Vincent, a dual Haitian-American citizen who lived in the U.S. and attended meetings in South Florida and Haiti ahead of the assassination, is the fourth of 11 defendants in Miami to plead guilty. He faces a maximum sentence of life in prison. On the international scene, former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson began his testimony on Wednesday as part of a public inquiry into the UK's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Johnson appeared for the first two-day session, focusing on the core political and administrative governance and decision-making for the UK. He resigned last year after a series of scandals, including revelations that his staff organized a string of parties and gatherings while the UK was in lockdown. And the Ukrainian president has called off a high-profile briefing with US lawmakers amid an impasse over future US funding for the country. Virtual appearances in the Senate and House were scheduled Tuesday, but were cancelled at the last moment. It came after a top Ukrainian official warned they are in danger of losing the war against Russia if more US military aid is not approved. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Ramarda Lyons.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with Spencer Darlington.